Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and today I'm on book number 5 of one of my favorite kids' book series from the 1980s and maybe of all time? I don't know, but I'm talking about book number 5 in the EXITORN Adventures, SEGRA and the Magician. So this is book number 5, and I will say right off the bat, I have been on a journey with these books. I read these ones so close, back to back to back. I pretty much read number 3, the number 4, the number 5, the number 6, pretty closely together and in pretty quick succession. Because I really loved the storyline. I love the characters, especially in this series. So I wanted to see what happened. And I will say, book number 5, I think might be one of the weakest of the series, but it was still good in my opinion. So let's talk about it. This series is a medieval, cozy fantasy series. That's the best way I can think to describe it. It's kind of in the vein of like the Archives of Anthropos or the Chronicles of Narnia or the Chronicles of Prydain, although I would say Chronicles of Prydain are a little bit more intense than those series are. And so this one is really in that kind of a vein where there's like some cozy medieval fantasy going on. There are some creatures, there are some adventures, there's a lot of different like intrigue, like political intrigue with the kingdoms. So there's a lot of stuff that's here that's really great. But I think the crowning jewel of this series is Segra, the character. She, to me, blows my mind a little bit because this is a Christian fantasy book series. And the fact that Segra is one of the defining characters of this series that came out in the late 80s is incredible to me. She has so much agency. She is not a damsel in distress. She is also, though, not a Mary Sue. A Mary Sue is a character who kind of can do anything, can jump up and like swing the sword and can battle better than anybody else, those kinds of things. There's also the guy version of that, the Gary Stu, same sort of difference. And I will say, both Segra and Brill, who are the main characters of the series, they are not a Mary Sue or a Gary Stu. Both of them have flaws and fail and make mistakes, and then they own up to them and sometimes don't, and sometimes they struggle with things. And I feel like they just feel like such great characters, and much better than, I'm gonna say, any of the Pevensey children in Chronicles of Narnia, in my opinion. The Pevenseys, they're a little whiny and they're a little bit kind of can do anything, and they're sometimes a tiny bit annoying. That's why I always liked Jill Pole and Eustace a lot better than any of the Pevensey children in the Chronicles of Narnia. But we're talking about EXITORN, not Narnia. So in this book, Segra has been invited to the kingdom of Leonif, and Leonif is where the Prince Oplak lives. Now, this is a spoiler for some earlier things in the series that if you want to read these books, then skip ahead like 30 seconds because I'm going to talk about a couple things. In this book, Segra, she is a princess of EXITORN, and she has kind of always been rumored to probably gonna get married to Prince Oplak from Leonif, mainly to like cement the alliance between EXITORN and Leonif. So in this book, Oplak's parents invite Segra to come to the kingdom for an extended stay. And it's kind of a let's get our kids together, see how they're doing, and probably push them towards getting married someday. Because Segra is going to be getting married in a couple of years. So she has to start thinking about how will that transition happen? And who should I marry? Because it's sort of up to her, but pretty much not as well, because the parents are kind of conspiring to put them together. So Segra goes and she's trying to have an open mind, and while she's there, Brill goes along and helps out, and Rima, her friend, as well go. So Brill and Rima are there, and while they're there, they kind of notice this strange person come into town, this magician who's doing tricks and putting on shows and things and pulling out everyone in the kingdom during the evenings to the show that he keeps doing through night after night after night. And Segra is starting to get a little suspicious because she feels like she's seen the magician somewhere before. And so on one night, while they're trying to like figure out what's going on, they notice there are some shady things happening during the shows every night. because someone is planning to use these shows as a cover to sneak into Leonif and take over the kingdom. And Segra, of course, is thinking, I've got to stop them. So she is up to her usual antics, trying to find a way to stop this takeover of the kingdom. Can she do it? Or will this end badly for someone in the cast? Now, I will just say, in this book series, no one's safe. People have died, and not just old people. Young people have died. Characters you did not expect would die have died. So the stakes are very high in this series, very interestingly enough. Now, I will say, this book series sometimes does some similar things book after book. And so in the last book, Brill and the Zinders, I felt like Peggy Downing really switched it up quite a bit. This book falls back into some of the similar things that some of the earlier books have done. They're definitely different. It's not exactly the same, but it is a little bit the same. And in this book, you have some similar moments that are happening as to moments in previous books, but the solution is different. She does not rely on the same old solutions to the problems. Peggy Downing manages to have new ideas and ways for Segra and Brill to save the day. And there are some great sequences in this book. There's one particular sequence where it's foggy in the morning and they're trying to find their way over to where the magician's troop lives, and that was a great sequence. It kind of reminded me of, if you've ever played The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time for Nintendo 64, there's a moment where you have to sneak into the palace to find Princess Zelda, and you have to sneak past these guards and sneak past this person and try and find your way in. It really reminded me of that kind of a moment where there was just a lot of intensity. You're wondering, will they make it? What is going to happen? And then when they do get there, some interesting things happen that I'm not going to say. Now, one of the other key things in this book that I think is really, really well done is Brill's character development here and Segra's character development, especially with this romance that is kind of budding between Segra and Oplak. There's this little bit of a, do we like each other? I don't know. I'm not sure. And I think it's a really great storyline because it adds a little something that's very different for a kid's book. A lot of kids' books don't usually go the romance route, and this is not like a full-on romance kind of situation, but I think it's enough that it gives you some interesting things to play with as far as the character development and the ways they interact with each other, because Brill obviously is thinking, I kind of like Segra, but I'm not a prince, so I don't think I'm allowed to marry her. So there's some interesting things going on there that I thought were so well done, so much fun. So at the end of the day, Segra and the Magician, this one, while it might be the weakest of the series, it still was so good. And I read it so fast and I loved it so much. So from me, it gets a 5 out of 5. I know that this might not be everyone's kind of series. This might not scratch the itch of fantasy for some people. To me, this was just such a fun series, and I cannot wait to talk about book number 6 because that book is so good. Anyways, I can't do it. So this one was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. And until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.